Hello and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget. It is Wednesday night. It is October 11th, the year of our Lord 2023. Jam-packed show tonight. Going to cover, it's going to be all football tonight. Going to cover all football tonight and a little bit of baseball. Postseason started last week. We're already into the division series. We've already had a team advance to the championship series, but so it's going to be mostly football, but I will have a baseball topic in there. But with all the further ado and all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the show. So first topic today, we're a month into the NFL season, so I'm going to give my power rankings, my top 10 teams in the NFL as I see them right now, and kind of going forward as well. This is right now top 10 rankings and moving forward. So a little bit of both in this top 10 rankings, and then we'll move on to college football, my second topic. Going to talk about what I saw a little bit in week 6. And I'm going to ask a question that I'm not comfortable in asking, but I am going to ask a question. Going to get a little uncomfortable with my USC Trojans, but we'll go ahead and finish. I'll go with that topic in my second topic for the week 6 CFB reaction. And then, like I said, I'm going to ask a question that's going to make me a little bit uncomfortable as well. And then third topic of the show, we'll move over to baseball and talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are on the brink of elimination tonight, and why I believe they need to make this a series, kind of just for a legacy for Dave Roberts, Clayton Kershaw, and that Dodgers organization as a whole. Obviously had a lot of playoff woes in the last year, but a lot of domination in the regular season. So going to talk about the Dodgers and their current situation. And then fourth and final topic, I'll finish off the show like I always do in football season with my week 7 NFL picks and my week 6 NFL picks and my week 7 college football picks. With all that being said, I would love for anybody that's watching on YouTube to like and subscribe to the show. So go ahead and pound that subscribe and that thumbs up button when you get a chance. And then if you prefer the audio version, please like, subscribe, or comment on any of the podcast stations. We are pretty much available on any of those podcast stations. Let's go ahead and dive into the show, though. So like I said, the first topic of the day is going to be in the NFL, and it's going to be my NFL power rankings, the top 10 teams as I see it a month into the season. We'll go ahead and start from 1 to 10. Starting off with number 1. Number 1 I thought was obvious to me, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco 49ers are the most complete team in the NFL. They have the best roster in the NFL. They just hammered a team in the Dallas Cowboys, who I think is a pretty good team, and who I still think has an outside shot to win to get to the NFC Championship game. Maybe not Super Bowl contender right now. They have some stuff they need to clean up, but San Francisco just pounded them. San Francisco they have a Pro Bowl or All Pro level player at every single position group, whether that's offensive line, defensive line, running backs, wide receivers, quarterback, linebackers, secondary. They have an All-Pro or Pro Bowl level player at every single position group, and there's really no other team out there that can say that. And Brock Purdy, I know a lot of people are saying he's a game manager. He is getting better and better every week. He's distributing the ball, whether it's Kittle. Kittle got 3 touchdowns. Ayuk's been huge this year. Debo is always going to get his. McCaffrey out of the backfield is just a stud and should be a top-level MVP candidate, even though he's a running back. So this team is loaded. The only thing that could derail this team from being just an unstoppable force most of the season is pretty much injuries, and that's something that can derail any team, especially any team, even a team at this magnitude with this many good players. So obviously I hope that doesn't happen to them, but in my opinion, this was a no-doubter for me. Number 1 team is the San Francisco 49ers. Move to the number 2 overall team, and that we're going to stay in the NFC, and I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles are 5-0. It hasn't been the most impressive 5-0, but it's 5-0. And them and the San Francisco 49ers are the only teams in the league that can say that. So by default, that's why I make them the second best team. Listen, they're probably the second best roster in the league behind the 49ers. They have all pro players at basically almost every position group. They have guys that have won the Super Bowl, played in the Super Bowl last year. Jalen Hurts has kind of sputtered a little bit in some games, but is still a guy who is an above average to good to great quarterback. They run the ball well. You still have 2 studs on the outside in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert is still an above average to good to great tight end. And then their offensive line is one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. And their defense is more than capable and has studs at every single position group. Jalen Carter, how the NFL let Jalen Carter fall to the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe is something that the NFL is going to regret. Because you already had Jordan Davis on that offensive line. You already had Fletcher Cox on the defensive line. And now you throw in Jalen Carter. Their defensive line is just unbelievably stout. They have good linebacker play. Their secondary is good as well. So this team is a complete team just like the 49ers. I don't know if their top-level talent is on the level of the 49ers, but it's certainly close. And at this point, it looks like a collision course in the NFC Championship game again between the 49ers and the Eagles, but a lot of the season is left. Like I said, we're only a month in, so a lot of the season is left, and anything can happen at this point. But those two teams are certainly in the driver's seat when it comes to the NFC. Number 3 team is the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs have not looked that impressive in a lot of games, but they've won all their games except for the opening night game when they were missing 2 of their 3 best players in Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. Their offense, their young receivers seem to start to be getting it going. Rice has had good games. Scantling's been good here and there. Watson's been pretty good. Still looking for Sky Moore to get going, but don't know what they have in him there, but he still is a young player with a lot of talent. Travis Kelce did look like he got injured again last Sunday. He is questionable for the game tomorrow night against the Broncos. Either way, you have Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the league. You have Andy Reid, who's probably right now the best coach in the league. And the best thing about this Kansas City Chiefs team versus other Kansas City Chiefs teams in the past is they play really good defense. And they're a team with a lot of youth on that defense, a lot of speed. And then you have Chris Jones up front to anchor that defensive line. They're a scary team right now, especially with the way they can play defense, because you know they're going to start figuring things out on offense because they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid running the show. So you know they're going to figure things out on offense. I'm not worried about that. If their defense continues to play at the level they have, they're a team that could win and become a dynasty and win a 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years. Move to number 4. It's a little bit controversial because who I have at 5, but we'll start with 4, and I have the Miami Dolphins. The reason I have the Miami Dolphins is this is a team that no one wants to play because the weapons they have on offense and with the way Mike McDaniel likes to call the offense, similar to how Kyle Shanahan did, and he is just one of the best young offensive minds, if not the best young offensive mind in the game, they're a dangerous team. Now, they lose Devin O'Shane, who has been their just rookie star, do everything star on offense, but they still have Mostert, of course. And then on the outside, you still have Waddle, Tyreek Hill. They get good offensive line play as well. And Tua right now may be the MVP of the entire league. So he is another MVP candidate out there as well. Now, the defense does need to get better because Buffalo was able to go up and down the field against this Miami Dolphins defense, and so was the LA Chargers in week 1 as well. So the defense needs to get better. They should get Jalen Ramsey back hopefully by the end of the season. That will help out a lot, but the firepower on the offensive side for the Miami Dolphins is just too good, and I think it'll keep them in every game because there's just too many people to stop and too much speed to stop as well. So I think that'll keep them in every game. I had them in front of the Buffalo Bills, who hammered them 2 weeks ago because the Buffalo Bills, to me, are a little Jekyll and Hyde. You have those performances like they had in week 2, in week 3, in week 4, and then they turn around and have a performance like they had this past week against the Jaguars or their week 1 performance against the New York Jets. So to me, it's a little bit, like I said, Jekyll and Hyde, a little too inconsistent. I know what you have. I know Josh Allen's a top 3-4 quarterback in the league. I know Stephon Diggs is a top 5 wide receiver in the league. Gabe Davis is having a bounce back year this year. They're getting a better run game from both Devin Singletary, James Cook, and Damian Harris. And the defense is stout, but losing Matt Milano is going to be huge, and losing Tre'Davious White at corner is going to be huge. This defense is going to be a lot more susceptible. And when you're going to have to go to Miami and play that offense without your best corner and without your best linebacker, that is going to be tough. That is going to be real tough. So that's why I have the Bills at 5. It's a little bit more look ahead, and I just don't love the Jekyll and Hyde inconsistency of their play. When they're at their best, they're probably the best team in the league. But when they're not at their best, they could be the 11th or 12th best team in the league or even worse. And when they don't, and when they're bad, they're real bad, especially on the offensive side, especially with Josh Allen, he can be prone to having a real bad game every now and then, and his real bad games are very, very bad. So that's why I got the Buffalo Bills at 5. And number 6, I have the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, to me, are a team that we all talked about that could have an opportunity to really take that next step this year, and I believe they have. Jared Goff is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year so far. They're getting a consistent run game from both Montgomery and the rookie as well. So they're getting steady run game as well. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown has been out of the lineup, but their tight end rookie, Sam Laporta, has played really, really well. They've gotten contributions at wide receiver from other guys like Josh Reynolds and other wide receivers that they have. Jamison Williams is back, so he should be getting going for them as well. The offensive line may be one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the entire league, and they're getting good enough defense. No one thought they would be a top 5 defense in the league, and no one's asking them to be a top 5 defense in the league with what they can do offensively. But they're getting good enough defense to win games and be a top-level team. And the rest of their division, the Packers don't look great with how Jordan Love's played the last couple of games. And then you got the Bears and the Vikings. The Vikings may be trading Kirk Cousins here soon. And the Bears, I don't know. They looked good last week, but that's the only week they've looked good. So the Lions might be able to run away with this division and might be able to get some rest for some of their players and starters. Now, I know it's real early to talk about that, but might be able to get some rest for their starters late in the year to kind of make a playoff run as well. So that's why I got the Lions at number 6, even though they lost to this team I have at 7, because I think they play in an easier division. Their trajectory to the playoffs and their path to the playoffs is a lot easier. And I think if they were to play the number 7 team again today, they would win that game. With all that being said, my number 7 team is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks just seem to find good players in the draft. Devin Witherspoon, their first-round pick out of Illinois, the cornerback, is on the short list of Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates already. Zach Charbonnet is going along well with Kenneth Walker to make one of the best 1-2 punch running back duos in the entire league. Geno Smith is backing up his year last year with another solid year. You have DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's always been just a solid receiver, maybe one of the most reliable receivers in the entire league. Jackson Smith-Njigba is getting better week to week, and they play good defense. So this is just another team. They sleptwalk in week 1 against and maybe took the Rams lightly because they kept hearing from everybody that the Rams would be good. But after that, they went in Detroit and won. They hammered the Giants a couple weeks ago. They've looked really good week to week after that. Pete Carroll is one of the 5 best coaches in the NFL, in my opinion. So this Seattle Seahawks team, well, they probably won't win the division because they're in the same division as the 49ers. They could be a team that could maybe make some upsets in the playoffs. So that's why I got the Seattle Seahawks at number 7. At number 8, I have the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not ready to sell all my stock on the Dallas Cowboys because I think they ran into the best team in the league in their house last week, and a team that's just a matchup nightmare for everybody, especially the Dallas Cowboys. But you look at the Cowboys, you still have a very good running back in Tony Pollard. You still have a great number 1 wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb. They need Brandon Cooks to be that number 2 guy and kind of take that mantle so Gallup can be the 3 guy. Ferguson, a tight end, is not a bad tight end. Their offensive line isn't as good as it has been in the past, but it's definitely serviceable, and it's definitely a team, an offensive line unit that can get a push and run the ball. And then you look at the defensive side. Yes, losing Trayvon Diggs was not great, and you've seen the issues they've had at corner since losing Trayvon Diggs. But you still have maybe the best defensive player in the league in Micah Parsons. DeMarcus Lawrence is an absolute stud on that defensive line as well. This is a team that is going to be able to make the playoffs. They're going to push Philly, I think, in their division games in the regular season. The question is, can they get elite or can they get great quarterback play from Dak Prescott in the playoffs against a team like Philadelphia or a team like the 49ers, because he can't throw 3 interceptions. When you throw 3 interceptions against a team like the 49ers, who's already a better team than you, that's what happens. 42-10 happens. The 49ers are better than the Cowboys, but they're not 32 points better, in my opinion. And if Dak Prescott can take care of the football, they can play with anybody in this league, maybe outside the 49ers. So that's why I have the Cowboys at number 8. At number 9, it's a surprise team. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The reason I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here is they play in probably the worst division in the NFL in the NFC South. They've already won against probably the next best team, the New Orleans Saints. They already won in New Orleans, so next time they play New Orleans is at home. Baker Mayfield is having a really good bounce back year. You still have two stud wide receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They have a good running back play. The defense is older, but it's a veteran defense that has played in a lot of big games and a lot of big moments. So I think they win this division. And with the way that Baker Mayfield is playing and the confidence he seems to have back, you saw him last week on the game day set for Oklahoma, Texas. He looks like the same, like the old confident Baker Mayfield, not the Baker Mayfield we saw last year and a little bit the year before. So if he has his confidence back, they still have weapons on offense. They still have a good veteran defense as well. This is a team that I think wins that NFC South, and maybe is a team that makes an upset in the NFC playoffs as well. And then to round out my top 10, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, it seems like the Jaguars should just play in London because they look better in London than they do in America, and especially in Jacksonville. But either way, this Jaguars team is absolutely loaded on offense. You obviously have Trevor Lawrence, who's one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. Travis Etienne is one of the best young running backs in the league. You have guys like Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram at tight end. They have a ton of weapons on offense. The defense is kind of the question mark, and the offensive line is the question mark. But they have capable players on both the offensive line and the defense as well. So this is a team, and they play in a division that's not great. Tennessee is up in the air. The Colts just lost Anthony Richardson for about 4 weeks. And the Houston Texans are a nice story right now with C.J. Stroud, but the Jaguars should be able to beat them in their next game. So Jaguars are my top 10 there. So let's go ahead and list give my list one more time. I have the 49ers at 1, the Eagles at 2, the Chiefs at 3, the Dolphins at 4, the Bills at 5, the Lions at 6, the Seahawks at 7, the Cowboys at 8, the Buccaneers at 9, and the Jaguars at 10. That is my top 10 power rankings 1 month into the NFL season. All right, let's go ahead and move to my second topic, and that is going to be in college football. And I have a question. So as you see, I'm wearing my USC shirt with the USC hat behind me. I'm a big USC Trojan fan. But I have a question right now. So we're sitting about a year and a half into Lincoln Riley's tenure from Oklahoma, and that's also a year and a half into Brent Venables' tenure at Oklahoma as well. The question is, who won that coaching kind of swap right now, and who looks better going forward? So in my opinion, I still think USC has won that coaching swap as of right now. Lincoln Riley is 17-1 in the regular season since he's been there, and Brent Venables is 12-6. So as of right now, Lincoln Riley has won, but Venables has seemed to turn that defense around. The defense was atrocious last year. He seemed to turn them around, and that's his specialty, is defense. He was a great defensive coordinator for Clemson and for Oklahoma before going to Clemson. Hiring Jeff Lebby on the offensive side, the offensive coordinator from Central Florida, was a great hire for Brent Venables last year. He has really seemed to get that offense going, and Dylan Gabriel looks like a Heisman candidate. And they just got their biggest win of the Venables era in Dallas against the Texas Longhorns. Huge win. Great game for Dylan Gabriel. Great game for that offense. That defense turned Quinn Ewers over a couple of times and made Texas uncomfortable in big spots. So good job on the defense there. The question mark for me as a USC fan, I love Lincoln Riley. I love that hire. I thought that was a better coach than what we were kind of chosen to get at that time. That was a better coach. But for me and Lincoln Riley, he needs to figure out these defensive issues, and he needs to get rid of his friend Alex Grinch. Alex Grinch has had more than enough opportunities, whether it is in Oklahoma or now in USC, to kind of right the ship on the defensive side, and hasn't. The first 3 games this season for USC, that looked like they did, but it just kind of showed that they played Stanford, Nevada, and San Jose State, 3 bad teams. And they've played 2 mediocre teams and maybe an above-average team in Arizona in these last 3 weeks, and the defense has been absolutely shredded. And now you go to Notre Dame this week. You have Oregon, Washington, Utah, and UCLA up on the schedule. It could get real ugly real quick for USC and that defense if Grinch doesn't figure things out. And right now, these next 5 weeks of the season, Grinch is coaching for his job. And if he can't slow down this Notre Dame offense, which has looked anemic the last couple of weeks against Louisville and Duke, if he can't slow down this offense, and now you're going to look to go ahead and get Oregon and Washington, who have NFL quarterbacks and NFL receivers and running backs on their roster, I don't think Grinch should last the season. And that's going to be the call. That's going to be the big question mark going forward of who really wins this coaching swap. Oklahoma with Venables or USC with Lincoln Riley. Is Lincoln Riley willing to get rid of his friend Alex Grinch and really focus and get that defense better? Because with Lincoln Riley, they're always going to have a good offense. He's had 3 quarterbacks win the Heisman Trophy. 4 quarterbacks have been invited. He's one of the best offensive minds, if not the best offensive mind in college football. So the offense is going to be good. If he just has serviceable, just good defense, he probably has maybe a national title or has at least a couple of games where he's played for the national title. But he hasn't had that ever, whether that's Oklahoma and then now with USC. And his defensive coordinator for most of that time, if not all that time, has been Alex Grinch. And he showed, USC has talent. They've brought in a ton of talent through the transfer portal. Some of their guys that they've recruited, even Helton's guys, were not terrible. They're still 4-star guys or top level, at least above average level high school recruits that came in. And Alex Grinch just, I don't know if it's a scheme or what he has them doing, but they just seem out of place and they just don't tackle. And he's got a lot of DBs, a lot of corners trying to tackle big running backs. I just don't know what's going on there with Alex Grinch. And he's had more than enough time to show that he is a capable defensive coordinator with Lincoln Riley. With Lincoln Riley just putting up amazing amount of points on offense with just unbelievable quarterbacks. It's time for him to move on. So as of right now, USC has won that coaching swap because Lincoln Riley has had the better tenure so far. But if Lincoln Riley isn't able to adapt to focusing more on the defensive side and getting a new defensive coordinator and firing Alex Grinch, Oklahoma could definitely win that coaching swap, and it could be a shorter tenure at USC for Lincoln Riley than we all thought going into that. And then the other kind of reaction and just thing I wanted to talk about from this past week was just the unbelievable gaffe, just the unbelievable error that Mario Cristobal made for the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes had the ball. I think it was with like 36 or 37 seconds left in the game. Georgia Tech was out of timeouts. All Miami had to do was kneel the ball, and they had won the game, and they moved to 5-0. But Mario Cristobal decides to run the ball. Of course, karma is a bitch sometimes. Running back fumbles the ball. Georgia Tech picks up the ball. And then Georgia Tech, Miami still had a chance to win on defense. Georgia Tech went down the field to their credit in 27 seconds, scored a touchdown to win the game. But you can't make that call. You just can't make that call. You need the ball, and you win the game. I know 9 out of 10 times you run that play, you don't fumble, and you still win the game. But that 10th time happened, and you fumbled, and you lost the game, and your team goes from 5-0 to 4-1, and now the questions start happening. The questions start coming because he did this. Now, it was not the same exact situation in 2018 on the road at Stanford when he decided to run the ball on 2nd and 3 because there was more time on the clock. Stanford had a timeout, and it's 2nd and 3. You get 3 yards, you pick up the first down, the game's over with. But still, a kind of a bad play call in 2018. This one, this past Saturday, was just egregious. It was just unbelievably bad. You cannot do that if you're a head coach at a major college football program like Miami. So that was something you just can't do and you can't get away with. Is it a fireable offense? Yes. Do they need to fire him? No. Because outside of that play, the trajectory of this Miami football program is actually really headed in the right direction. They were 4-0 going into this game. They had already beaten Texas A&M pretty good at home about 3 weeks ago. They're recruiting really well from high school and the transfer portal. So they're going to have good players year in and year out now under Mario Cristobal, and that is kind of what he does. A lot of people said he's more of a recruit than an X's and O's coach, and that still seems to be the case. But this team is headed in the right direction. This program's headed in the right direction. And the ACC is wide open outside of Florida State, maybe. Clemson is taking a step back. North Carolina is having a good year this year, but if they lose Drake May to the draft, how good are they after that? Duke is having a good year this year, but it's Duke. They're not a football program. They're not a football school. So this program and this team is still headed in the right direction. under Mario Cristobal, but you can have you can't have another mistake or another error like that, because another mistake or another error would be a fireable offense, and an actual time where I don't like to call for coaches to get fired, but if you do something like that again, it's hard to come back from that. So terrible error by Mario Cristobal there, but I still think the trajectory of this Miami program is something that you can't just ignore and just decide to fire Mario Cristobal at that point. With all that being said, let's go ahead and move to my third topic, and we're going to move to Major League Baseball. And obviously the playoffs started last week. We're well into the playoffs now. Already a team that's punched their ticket to the ALCS, to the Championship Series round. But I really wanted to focus on one team that is still alive but is on the brink of elimination tonight, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers have won, let's see here, they have won 10 of the last 11 division titles in the NL West. So they've absolutely dominated that division over the last decade plus. And I don't see any signs of that not happening in the regular season. Their farm system is one of the best in the league. They seem to bring in guys from their farm system, whether it's pitchers, position players, whatever, bullpen, and they seem to hit a lot more than they miss. So this is a team that is probably still going to be around and still be a top-level team in the NL and probably still win division titles in the NL West for a while. But right now, the position they sit in on the brink of elimination, going to Arizona, and they lose tonight, they're done. And this would be the second year in a row that they've lost, if they do lose this series, the second year in a row that they've lost in the divisional round to a division opponent that they absolutely owned in the regular season. Last year, they lost to the Padres in the divisional round, and they owned the Padres in the regular season. This year, they may lose to the Diamondbacks in the divisional round. They owned the Arizona Diamondbacks in the regular season as well. So not a good look for the Dodgers right now. And like I said, 10 of the last 11 division titles they've won. But they have one World Series title to show for it, and that was in a shortened COVID year in 2020. Not putting an asterisk next to it because every other team was playing in the same scenario. But still, that's your only title. This reminds me a lot of the 90s and early 2000s Atlanta Braves. The team with just that stacked rotation with Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox. The team that won 13 straight division titles but one World Series. This Dodgers team reminds me a lot of those 90s and 2000s Braves. And they need to be able to get over the hump. It may not happen this year, but it's got to happen these next couple of years. You have too much talent there. They're the leader in the clubhouse right now to get Shohei Ohtani as well. They're the odds-on favorite to get Shohei Ohtani. You bring him in, that's even more pressure that's going to fall on Dave Roberts and this Los Angeles Dodgers team, this Los Angeles Dodgers club. So if they lose tonight or if they lose this series, it's going to be a long offseason for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I fully expect for them to compete again for the division title and one of the best records in the league next year because that's how good they've scouted, they've drafted, they've developed. That's how good. So kudos to them for that. But you got to get it done in October. You just have to get it done in October. Clayton Kershaw gives up 6 runs the other night in game 1. That may be the last time we see Clayton Kershaw pitch, not just in a Dodger uniform, but ever. He is on a 1-year contract that's up at the end of the year, of course. He's an older player. We may never see him pitch again, and that could be the last outing. I hope that's not the case, of course, but that could be the last outing. But if you're the Dodgers, at least make this a series. Win tonight, win Game 4, get it back to LA in a Game 5, and a best of 5 series. Anything can happen, but at least make this a series. You get swept by this Arizona Diamondbacks team that's making their first playoff appearance in years. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So at least make this a series and maybe calm some of that noise down. I think even if they do force a Game 5 and lose at home, there'll still be a ton of noise around this Dodgers roster and this Dodgers club. But at least make this a series to calm down some of that noise and some of that pressure. But I just don't know what to do with the Dodgers. They're a great regular season team that just hasn't been able to get it done in the postseason. Let's go ahead and finish off the show with my Week 6 NFL picks and my Week 7 college football picks. We'll go ahead and start in the NFL. I have first game is going to be the Seahawks at Bengals, and the Bengals are currently a 3-point favorite. Looked like the Bengals kind of turned the corner last week. Joe Burrow had his best game by far, 3 touchdowns, all Jamar Chase, over 300 yards passing. He was more mobile in the pocket. That calf looked a lot better. Seahawks are coming off a bye, still in the top 10 teams in the league, as I mentioned earlier with my power rankings, but I think the Bengals are going to do kind of what they did last year. They started off 2-3 last year and then rattled off 10 wins. Don't know if they rattle off 10 wins again, but I like this Bengals team, and I like the confidence that Joe Burrow showed last week, the play of Jamar Chase, who is their best player on offense. So go ahead and give me the Bengals to win and cover. Bengals -3 in this game. Then we'll move to the Colts at the Jaguars, and the Jaguars are a 4-point favorite. Jaguars are playing at their actual home, not their other home in London, their actual home in Jacksonville this week. Gardner Minshew will be the quarterback for the Colts. Gardner Minshew has played valiantly in Anthony Richardson's absence, but I think the Jaguars are getting something going now, both offensively and defensively, especially on the offensive side. So I think the Jaguars win and cover, so give me the Jaguars -4 in this game. Then we have the Commanders at the Falcons, and the Falcons are a 2.5-point favorite. The Falcons are a team that has to win one way, and that's running the ball and playing defense. They have to run the ball with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and slow down the game, and they have to get some turnovers on the defensive side because Desmond Ridder is just extremely limited at the quarterback position. So I think the Commanders bounce back. They had an awful performance last week against the Bears on Thursday night. They've had 2 extra days to prepare for this Falcons team. They still have a ton of weapons on the offensive side with McLaurin, Dotson, and Curtis Samuel. I think the Commanders bounce back and at least cover in this game, so give me the Commanders +2.5 in this game. Then we have the Lions, who are a 3-point favorite at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers are coming off a bye as well. This, I think, is going to be a tight game, a real tight game. I love this Lions team. I love what they're doing, playing balanced football on the offensive end, getting better each week on the defensive end. Offensive line really is just one of the best units in the entire league. But this Buccaneers team is playing with a ton of confidence. Baker Mayfield is playing with a ton of confidence. Like I said, I think this is a really close game. I think the Lions maybe win by like 1 or 2, but give me the Bucs to cover, so Bucs +3 in this game. And then we'll go ahead and close out with the Monday night game, and that is the Cowboys at the LA Chargers. That's going to be in SoFi Stadium, but that is going to be pretty much a home game for the Cowboys. There are going to be a lot more Cowboys fans there than Chargers fans, most likely. Cowboys are a 2-point favorite in this game. I think they bounce back. I think this defense suffocates that kind of questionable offensive line for the Chargers. Maybe turns over Justin Herbert a couple of times. And I just don't trust Brandon Staley. I don't trust him as a head coach. And the Chargers always seem to be in tight games. And in a late tight game, I don't trust Brandon Staley that much. So I think the Cowboys go in there. Like I said, it's not really going to be much of a road game. They're going to have the fan edge. They're going to have the crowd edge there. So give me the Cowboys to win and cover. Cowboys -2 in this game. Let's go ahead and finish off everything with my Week 7 college football picks. We'll start with the biggest game of the weekend, and that is going to be in the Pacific Northwest, and that is number 8 Oregon at number 7 Washington, and Washington is currently a 3-point favorite in this game. Now, Washington has probably 2, maybe 3 NFL wide receivers on this team. Michael Penix is maybe the most underrated player in the entire country right now. I think he's a first-round top 10 talent at quarterback as well. With that being said, I don't know if Washington plays good enough defense to slow down this Oregon offense. Bo Nix is another quarterback I think is a first-round talent in the NFL. They have some offensive studs that can be in the NFL as well, especially on the offensive line. And I think Oregon plays good enough defense to slow down this Washington team. So I think Oregon has potential to win, but I think they cover. So give me Oregon +3 in this game. Then we have Miami, number 25 Miami at number 12 North Carolina. How does Miami respond after that just terrible error by Mario Cristobal last week and that loss at home to Georgia Tech? They go on the road to an undefeated North Carolina team who just absolutely tore apart Syracuse last week. Drake May had his best game of the year. I think this North Carolina team has a real chance, has an outside chance to make the playoff and has a real chance to win the ACC. So I think North Carolina wins and covers at home. So give me North Carolina -3.5 in this game. Then we have a game that's kind of off the radar a little bit, but I think is a sneaky good game in the Pac-12, and that is number 18 UCLA at number 15 Oregon State, and Oregon State's a 3.5-point favorite in this game. This matchup looks a lot to me like UCLA 2 weeks ago going to Utah. It looks a lot to me like that kind of matchup where Oregon State is a very similar team to Utah. They like to run the ball and they like to play good defense. They like to suffocate you on defense, get after the quarterback, make you make mistakes, play sound football all around. Can UCLA go on the road again in that same kind of tough environment in Corvallis, tough defense in Oregon State, and get a win this time? I don't think so. I like Oregon State. They're coming off a bye as well, so they're rested. They played on a Friday night the week before, so they're even more rested because they had a longer break and they had a bye. So I like this Oregon State team to win and cover at home. So give me Oregon State -3.5. I do love Dante Moore and what he's doing with that UCLA team. Great win last week on the road at Washington State. Just tough to go back-to-back on the road in this conference right now, especially against a team like Oregon State. And then the big game Saturday night for the Jules Shillelagh, I think it's called. We have number 10 USC and number 21 Notre Dame. Notre Dame is actually 2.5-point favorite as of today. Now, Notre Dame, this is their fourth big game. They played Ohio State 3 weeks ago, then Duke, then Louisville. They've lost 2 of those 3 games. Are they able to get up for another game, another primetime game, another big game? And this is always probably the biggest game on their schedule. It's one of USC's biggest games as well, one of the oldest rivalries in college football, one of the best rivalries in college football as well. Probably the best crossover conference, out-of-conference rivalry in all of college football is USC and Notre Dame. USC, like we talked about earlier, is not playing good defense, but Notre Dame is not playing good offense. If I was USC, I would load the box and make Sam Hartman and these wide receivers beat you, because we know that Audric Estime is their best offensive player, and what they like to do on offense is run the ball. Make Notre Dame beat you by passing. And yes, Notre Dame has a really good pass defense, and it's probably going to be raining and windy. USC has a good enough run game, and they need to lean on that run game more with Marshawn Lloyd and running the ball with Caleb Williams. I just think that USC is too stout on offense, and I think they're going to be able to maybe slow down this Notre Dame offense a little bit as well. So I like USC to cover in this game, so give me USC +2.5. Then we'll go ahead and finish with SEC, under-the-radar SEC game, and this is Missouri and number 24 Kentucky, and Kentucky is a 2.5-point favorite. Now, both these teams are coming off their first loss. Missouri at home last week to LSU, and Kentucky on the road to Georgia. So they're both coming off their first loss. But I just like this Kentucky team to bounce back. They're going to be at home in that stadium at Kroger Field, where they do get a decent home field advantage. They're going to be able to run the ball on this Missouri team who just gave up 49 points to LSU. Devin Leary is going to he has to start playing better for this Kentucky team for them to really make some more noise in the SEC. They were just overmatched against Georgia, and that matchup is just tough because they basically play the same style of football as Georgia, and they're not as good, and they don't have the players and the athletes as Georgia. So that's why they never really can win that game, but they can keep it close a lot of times. But I think they win and cover here. So give me Kentucky at home, like I said, to win and cover. So Kentucky -2.5 in this game. That has been my show for today. As always, this is Sports Talk on a Budget. As always, my name is Cody. I'll be your host. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you prefer to watch the show. Or if you prefer the audio version, please like and subscribe to any of the podcast stations, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or basically wherever you like to get your podcast. Thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great night.